is the WrestleBread Podcast, bringing you the latest news, recaps, and analysis of AEW and WWE. Get the unique perspective from a wrestling fan of over 25 years. Here's your host, Jaydee.
What's going on, guys? This is Jaydee here, and this is episode 58 of the WrestleBread Podcast. So we had Backlash this week. We had a lot going on with Raw, NXT, and AEW Dynamite as well. So let's get into it. So overall, a Backlash. It was a pretty good pay-per-view event. Some misses, some good things going on. First, on the pre-show, we had Apollo Crews versus Andrade. So I kind of missed some of this match. I saw that Kevin Owens was on commentary because Andrade came out with Angel Garza, who tried to help Andrade win the match, of course. Kevin Owens was able to stop Angel Garza from interfering. Apollo Crews picks up the win. I actually had Andrade winning this match because I thought that he would get some assistance in winning. But, I don't mind Apollo Crews winning keeping the title. I feel as though, I don't know. I still am not a fan of his gimmick because he's just mainly doing nothing but smiley. Maybe, he did win I can't recall if it's Raw or if it was at Backlash where he made a pin and he held on to the rope. I think that was Backlash. He held on to the rope, so it kind of hinted a little bit maybe that he could be turning heel or that he's just doing whatever it takes in order to retain his title. So we opened the show with the women's tag team match. Sasha and Bayley versus the IIconics versus Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. The beginning of this match, there was a lot of mistiming with the spots between the women. And I hate it when that happens. It happens a lot in the women's matches where there's this mistiming with spots and the women kind of like stand there, or it's like a bit of an awkward moment where they're kind of lingering around because someone isn't either ready for the spot or they came too early or whatever. So there was a lot of mistiming between the spots. It did start to get better and it started to turn into an entertaining match. There was a spot though when Peyton went for a crossbody through the middle rope where Alexa Bliss and Sasha Banks were standing on the apron, and it looked like her shoulder got stuck or her arm got stuck underneath. I think it was Sasha Banks. But it wasn't really it wasn't a pretty spot, I would have to say. But in the end, Alexa Bliss went for her finisher, I believe, on one of the IIconics. And then Sasha grabbed Alexa Bliss and did a roll-up, and Sasha Banks and Bayley retained their titles. So now, because of that, they are going to NXT to go against Shotzi Blackheart and Tegan Nox. So I'm very happy that the women's tag team belts are finally being defended across multiple brands. I don't think either team when the IIconics had it, and I think it was Bliss and Nikki Cross who had the titles too. I don't think they ever went to NXT to defend the titles. So I'm happy that Sasha Banks and Bayley are doing what they had intended to do, which is defend the titles with NXT, to give, the NXT women a chance, even though there's not really technically any female tag teams down there. But still, it'll give women a bigger spotlight in NXT that they definitely deserve. So after that, we got Jeff Hardy and Sheamus. I don't know what it is with Jeff Hardy. I think this is like the fourth time that they did this addiction storyline with him. Every time he has this singles run with a storyline, it has to do with his addiction. I'm happy that he's getting like this last run or whatever, but I feel like they could definitely do something a lot better than always poking at his addiction. Maybe he's okay with it and he doesn't mind the storyline, but I don't know. He did get a DUI like 2 years ago. I don't know. I don't want it to be like a bit of a trigger or, some type for him to feel slightly embarrassed about all this, that there's constantly this addiction storyline that WWE has to go to. But anyways, this was a good match. I feel as though this match really shouldn't have been on the card. This match should have been either on Raw or SmackDown. It was a good match, I have to say, but it just wasn't pay-per-view type worthy of a match. Like, I can see if, for next month for Extreme Rules, if maybe this was like a TLC match or this match was like escalated or something like that. But this match could have definitely been saved for Raw or SmackDown. And I have to say that the AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan match should have been on the card in this place, honestly. The crowd did some unique chants. I have to give it to them. They definitely tried to replace the crowd with this. They were chanting Hardy like they were Ewoks. They were chanting, I forgot all the chants that they were doing, but they was doing a lot of unique chants with this match. And I thought that Jeff Hardy was going to win this match, but it ends up being Sheamus. The ending was a bit of weird, like it kind of came out of nowhere. It was a bro kick that, Jeff Hardy hopped on the barricade, even though there was the, this plastic barricade so that none of the quote unquote fans really can, spew any spit or anything like that. Well, for protection, basically, between the fans and the wrestlers. But Jeff Hardy was able to get up on the barricade. He walked around like he was about to do, like maybe a swanton bomb or something like that. But Sheamus did the bro kick on Jeff Hardy, and it kind of was where the match kind of turned. And then towards the end of the match, Sheamus did his bro kick and won the match. So it's like, okay, well, what now? What are we doing? As this whole storyline was Sheamus, going after Jeff Hardy for his addiction, calling him a junkie, had him take a piss test and everything. So Jeff Hardy loses. So it's like, okay, what now? Are they going to continue to fight again? Like, I don't know what's going to happen next. So after that, we had Asuka versus Nia Jax. Now, people have various opinions about this match. Some people felt as though it wasn't a good match. Some people felt as though it was a good match. It was a lot better than I expected, I have to say. But I was holding my breath every time Nia Jax had some type of offense, because she is definitely known for injuring people. I know people are going to be like, give Nia Jax a break, this, that, and the third. But, once you're in the ring, but for so long, it is similar to a dance. Your job is to protect the other person, but still make the match believable. And if you are known to injure multiple people, well, that means you're a bit sloppy in the ring. And there's some type of practice that you need to do, some type of protocol, some handbook you need to read on how to simply basically wrestle. So I was holding my breath whenever Nia Jax had some type of offense, because I didn't want her to injure Asuka. I love Asuka. Asuka, finally get her title, even though it wasn't exactly the way we would love for her to win it, but she is finally the Raw Women's champion, and I want her title reign to last for a while. Long time, I have to say. But with this match, it ended in a double countout, which, I should have expected that a double countout or a disqualification was going to come, but I guess this means that we're going to get Asuka versus Nia Jax for the Extreme Rules match, and I will be holding my breath at that match too, hoping that Nia Jax will be able to control herself and not injure Asuka. I had Asuka winning. Some people did predict that Nia Jax was going to win, which I hoped that she was going to win, but I guess with this double count out, it was bound to come. We was bound to get a double count out or a double disqualification sometime within this pay-per-view. So this was the match that did it. After that, we got Braun Strowman versus The Miz and John Morrison in the handicap match. Now, I thought this was going to be like a true handicap match because Miz and Morrison were talking about being co-champions, which, I thought would have been a cool concept. But then, of course, it was decided that whoever pins Braun Strowman will then be the one true champion, which kind of takes the fun out of Miz and Morrison saying they're going to be co-champions. And they put out this music video during the pre-show. It was called, I think it's called Hey, Hey, Hey. And if you haven't seen the video, definitely check it out because it was straight up 80s. It was hilarious. I find Miz and Morrison are definitely hilarious. If you haven't seen the first time that they were together way back, what was it, like 2008, I think, or 2009, definitely check them out because they was hilarious, especially with the dirt sheets and all the antics that they used to do. Now, this wasn't really a good match. I was hoping that it was more of a triple threat match instead of Miz and Morrison tagging in, because it don't really make sense if whoever pins Braun Strowman will be the true champion if they have to tag each other in and out. It's kind of not really fair. Now, they did have, during the match, Miz and Morrison kind of had a moment where they were, I think one pulled the other off of Braun Strowman or something like that. So it kind of hinted that there was a bit of trouble with the tag team, but they immediately made up. But this wasn't really a good match. Miz and Morrison started to show their music video once again, and then Braun Strowman comes out and interrupts the video. So if you haven't got a chance to check out the full video, they showed it on the pre-show. But we have this Strowman Express for whatever reason with this train. I don't really get it. Braun Strowman really hasn't done a lot in the past couple of months to really be the Strowman Express. I made the joke that does his train drop off to the Lex Express bus? If you don't know what I'm talking about, back in 1993, there was a wrestler named Lex Luger who was going against Yokozuna, and the fans really wasn't feeling Lex Luger. So in order for Lex Luger to be over, they decided to do something called the Lex Express, where Lex Luger was in this bus decked out in, American flags and everything. And they called it the Lex Express, where he went around the country and, kissed babies, took pictures with kids and shook hands with the older women and everything, just for him to get over. And it led to SummerSlam, where, he was going for the WWF Championship, and that SummerSlam 93. And the thing is, what happened was Lex Luger, the match ended in disqualification, and Yokozuna retained his title, but Lex Luger won. And that was the end of it. If I could change, not really any ending, because there are other endings that I would change, but if I could change more than one ending, I would have had Lex Luger win the championship. I don't know why they decided not to pull not to give him the title back then, but having him go around the country and do this Lex Express really didn't make any sense. Just like it doesn't make sense for Braun Strowman to be called the Strowman Express with this train and everything. It does nothing for me, really. It doesn't really convince me that he is this monster after you kind of had him lose a couple of times. And, I get it. He's the champion now. You're trying to put him more over and try to get him to be this menacing person, even though there's not really much competition you're giving him, because now he's suddenly in this quote unquote handicap match. So Braun Strowman retains his title. I don't know who is going to be next as far as who he's going to go against. Hopefully it's some type of, not actual competition, but as some type of storyline. Give him a feud or something. Even though Bliss and Morrison should be going after the tag team championship. So figure it out, WWE. After that, we had Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre. Bobby Lashley attacks Drew McIntyre before the belt. He does the full Nelson, and I think Bobby Lashley should go back to the drawing board for his finisher, because the full Nelson was kind of, 1980s, early 90s maybe type of finisher. Doesn't really do much effect, especially if it shouldn't do, really shouldn't sustain someone like Drew McIntyre, who's pretty strong. So he definitely can step on the foot, swing the leg back, do a low blow, swing the leg back, kick a knee or something like that. So I don't know. But MVP and Bobby Lashley are definitely a force to be reckoned with. There is this bit of a, tiff between MVP and Lana. Lana was banned from ringside by Bobby Lashley, and she decides to come out anyway and gets on the apron and starts arguing with the ref. And you hear a bit of the audio of what she was saying to people, what she was saying to the ref. And I forgot what she was saying, but it was something dumb. It was no point of her getting on the apron. Basically, she got on the apron just for the spot of Bobby Lashley getting knocked into Lana, who then falls onto MVP below. The thing that I kind of didn't like about this match was that Drew McIntyre has this tendency to kick out at one. And so it's just every move that Bobby Lashley was doing, it kind of really didn't give that much of effect if Drew McIntyre is kicking out at one. This had the potential to be a good match, but with that ending of Lana coming out, it makes no type of sense. I forgot what happened on Raw the next night. Well, no. It was the situation with Bobby Lashley and Lana and everything. But, hopefully this match goes on to Extreme Rules. And Bobby Lashley would get another chance to go after Drew McIntyre, get another title shot so that we could have an actual good match without, the Lana coming out to distract the referee in a weird type of way. But of course, Drew McIntyre retained his title. I thought that Bobby Lashley would have won, just because, weird things are happening during this pandemic. I figured that they would try to switch things up while they don't have fans. But I'm happy that Drew McIntyre retained his title. And we'll see what happens when it comes to the Extreme Rules. So after that, we get this cinematic backstage type of interaction with the Street Profits and the Viking Raiders. They started to fight each other. They picked up weapons, and then they each had a bit of a flashback for the whole anything you could do, I could do better type of segment that they had. Now, there are various opinions about it. I respect everyone's opinion. But I didn't like what happened at Backlash. And I will tell you why. Now, I did put the question out there, kind of opened up some wounds as far as if AEW was to do this, for the people who hated it, if AEW was to do the same thing, would you still hate it? And some people, was a bit triggered by it. But here's my opinion. So what's going on with the Street Profits and the Viking Raiders, I'm not a fan of. The reason why is because WWE has a strong history of taking tag teams that has a lot of promise and turning them into a joke. And so much of a joke that they cannot recover from it. Biggest example is the Revival. The Revival is a very, they're a very good tag team. They put on such great matches when they were in NXT, especially when they were going against American Alpha. Once the Revival comes onto the main roster, they really didn't have much of a feud. They really weren't taken seriously, especially once you got to that Uzi Hot segment. With WWE, you don't recover from that. And there hasn't really been good tag team feuds except for when you have the Usos versus the New Day. And the reason being is because WWE tends to make a joke out of their tag teams. Look what's going on with the Street Profits and the Viking Raiders. Viking Raiders had incredible matches back in NXT. Even the Street Profits had good matches. The Street Profits is a pretty good tag team once they get in the ring and do their thing. The thing is, they always been kept to the backstage because they're funny. But WWE does not know how to do comedy and put on a really good tag team match. Now, what happened at Backlash was we had the backstage action where they were fighting against each other, and then Akira Tozawa randomly comes on motorcycles with ninjas. And of course, Titus O'Neil is dressed up as one of the ninjas. And then the Viking Raiders and the Street Profits decided to team together. And now they're called the Viking Profits or something like that. And they jumped up together, and it did the freeze frame when they jumped up together. One of the Viking Raiders used the Force to grab his drumstick, and they fought the ninjas until, of course, Titus O'Neil walks up and they decide to run off. They run off, and then they got on top of the truck. They started I think they were fighting each other from there, and then they fell into a dumpster where there was a dumpster monster. It looked like an octopus arm or something like that. And then that was when Jessica the ref comes over and was like, "Hey guys, your match is next." And then she did the bit of where she told one Viking Raider that he's cute, and then she told the other one not so much. A bit of a bit that they did every time they had these vignettes of this whole anything you could do, I could do better. Now, what happened next is what made me upset. Because of what happened of them falling into the dumpster, the match was canceled. So we had all these vignettes of them doing this whole anything you can do, I can do better. And it was supposed to come together for this, finally the Street Profits defending their championships against the Viking Raiders, who they was going up against this whole time. And then the match never happens. The match was advertised to happen, but you didn't get it. That's the part that pissed me off, is that you did all this crap backstage. You kept them pretty much off of TV, not off of TV, but out of the ring for them to, do basketball and axe throwing and golf and bowling and everything like that. And they didn't even wrestle. There wasn't even a championship match. Now, you definitely could have squeezed in the match. It could have been 10 minutes. You could have took off 10 minutes for Edge and Randy Orton's match, truthfully. Let's be honest, because that Edge and Randy Orton match lasted for almost 45 minutes. It was a good match, but it lasted a little bit too long, I have to say. You could have took off 10 minutes off of this match just so the Street Profits and the Viking Raiders could have put on a good match. And that's what makes me upset. So now, yes, when it came to AEW, I did find the Stadium Stampede match funny. But the thing is, with AEW, even though they're one decision away from pretty much treating a tag team just like they did, like WWE, because let's be honest, they did have Marco Stunt, go toe to toe with the Lucha Bros at one point, which kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. So AEW is like literally one decision away from treating a tag team very similar to WWE. But the thing is, with AEW, they treat their tag team division with respect. The tag teams can have a good match. They have good tag teams over there. And yeah, they may have a little bit of silliness, but they can still let them put on good matches. I mean, look at the Private Party, look at the Young Bucks, Hangman and Kenny Omega, the Lucha Bros. They have a lot of, look how the Revival is starting to be treated over there as well. They have really good tag teams, and they let the tag team shine, where they can, of course, still have these segments of the, like the Stadium Stampede. But if you put the Young Bucks in a match against Sammy Guevara and Chris Jericho, you would still have a good match. So I'm not sitting here saying, I'm hating on WWE just to hate on WWE. No, WWE had a chance to let two tag teams shine, and they didn't even let them. They didn't even let them. The match was canceled because they got stuck in a dumpster. It's like, shave off 10 minutes off this one match, and let your tag team shine. The other tag team title wasn't even defended. The SmackDown tag team title wasn't even defended. So that's my issue with WWE. They do have a good women's division. If you take out NXT, they have a good women's division, but they don't know how to concentrate and let other women shine. You have so many women, but yet Charlotte Flair is on every single show. If it was, it's either Becky Lynch or Charlotte Flair. So luckily they're giving the women's tag team titles a chance to really shine. Hopefully they'll let them, Sasha Banks and Bayley, really show off with the belts and let other other tag teams, get their title shots like they were hoping to. But yeah, for some reason, WWE just does not have this respect for tag teams. And it's a bit disturbing because I really like tag team wrestling. It really takes a lot to put trust into someone else to, especially when it's a really good tag team match where you have 4 men putting on a good show. It's kind of difficult when you have 2 people. But when it comes to having a tag team match, it's you gelling with the person who you are teamed up with to kind of come up with, different, moves and things like that together for your personalities to flow and everything. And then for not only for you and your partner to be cool in the ring, but for you to be able to, kind of quote unquote dance with the other team. And no matter which partner is in the ring, to be able to put on a good match regardless. So I was a little pissed off that, okay, you have the vignettes and everything of the Viking Raiders going out and golfing and bowling and all this other stuff and playing basketball, and they ain't even get a chance to wrestle. So for fans who have no idea who the Viking Raiders are or the Street Profits are when they were in NXT, this is what is being displayed to them. That, they're just guys who are dressed up as Vikings. They're bowling and playing basketball and everything like that. Nothing for them to be really taken seriously about. You didn't even give a chance to really show what they can do in the ring. So that was my gripe about it. The match should have happened. It's a pay-per-view event. You could have if this was going to be what happened, you should have done it on Raw or SmackDown. What was it? You should have done it on Raw. Sorry, this is the Raw Tag Team Championship. You should have done it on Raw. Leave it on Raw. Don't do it on a pay-per-view event. Have people guessing who's going to win and predicting and all this other stuff and putting energy into a match that wasn't going to happen for dumb reasons. They weren't even injured. They were running out of the dumpster because there was a dumpster monster in there. So now coming to the main event, the greatest wrestling match ever. They kept billing it. Edge versus Randy Orton. Now, had WWE just, mentioned that this was going to be a good feud or something like that, instead of constantly dubbing it as the greatest wrestling match ever, people probably wouldn't have been crapping on it. Was it a good match? Yes. Could it have been a great match had the crowd been there? Yes. Is it the greatest wrestling match ever? No, not by a long shot, unfortunately. This is definitely a match of the year candidate, definitely. But this isn't the greatest wrestling match ever. Now, I missed the part where they gave the disclaimer that there was going to be enhanced audio. I thought this was like going to be some type of like surround sound type of experience or something like that. But no, what they decided to do was pipe in crowd noise. And I'm sitting here like, wow. Because once the match started, I was like, wow, the 20 people who are ringside definitely sound like 1,000 people now. You can clearly see that the chants that you were hearing and the crowd you were hearing wasn't matching up with the people who are ringside. There was a spot where you hear the crowd cheering and everything, and when the camera cut to some of the Performance Center people, and they were just like standing there. I literally cracked up when that happened. This was a good match. Definitely was a good match. The crowd noise kind of took away from it. It kind of cheapened the match. Now, thinking about it, let's say 10 years from now, someone new comes to a new fan starts watching WWE, hops on the network and decides to watch this match because we'll probably talk about this match for years from now because it was a really good match. It's a good feud between Randy Orton and Edge, especially with Edge coming back after being gone for 9 years. The crowd noise kind of cheapens the match. And my thinking is if this new fan goes to watch this match and they hear this crowd noise, like, was WWE kind of going for, when that new fan comes in to watch this match, that the crowd noise will kind of hype up the match or something? I don't know. I don't know how this would look, years down the line to a new fan who's watching this and has no idea, like, what's going on at that time. Like I had said earlier, this match lasted for almost 45 minutes. This was a really good match. We had each wrestler doing different moves. We had the rock bottom, we had the pedigree, we had Christian's move, the kill switch or the unprettier, and each time they kicked out. So I don't know why they pulled out these moves. They could have definitely did something else. It kind of cheapens the move, the fact that you're doing other people's finishers, especially popular ones, and people are kicking out of it. Like, it felt like doing the DDT, and people kick out of it. So it kind of cheapens the finishers. There was, 2 spears, RKOs that they did, and then, everyone kicked out. It was great storytelling, though. It was great storytelling, I have to say. It's just that the pipe and noise kind of like cheapens the match. And of course, the match would have been 20 times better if it was in front of a live crowd. It does suck that, this was done without the crowd, because the crowd would have definitely hyped in. And they were doing, of course, the "this is awesome" chant and all this stuff, and the "holy shit" chants that they were piping in. I don't know. I don't think that the crowd noise was really needed, because there were matches that WWE put on that was really good, and it really didn't need the pipe-in noise. And it's kind of disappointing that WWE kept dubbing this the greatest wrestling match ever, and it took away the focus of what should have been a really good match. Just say that, don't even say it's the greatest match ever. Just say that, it has the potential to be a great match, not saying it's the greatest wrestling match ever, because you're slapping in the face people like Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Macho Man Randy Savage. There's a lot of great matches out there that definitely, I have to say, top this match. The 4 gentlemen that I named, there are other matches that I can name too that would be considered a contender for the greatest wrestling match ever. But this was definitely a nomination for Match of the Year. I have to say. But this was a long match. This really didn't need to take 45 minutes. Because after a while, you're looking at your watch and like, okay, we could have took out some of these fake finishers that you threw out there. But the surprising thing is that Randy Orton won. I thought it would be Edge. And I just wanted to try to get the thinking as to why Randy Orton pulled out. Now, the things that Randy Orton was saying was straight gangster. I mean, he whispered into Edge's ear, "I'm gonna kill you, motherfucker." And I'm like, whoa, this man got a family. This man has a family. You have a family. Let's not get a little bit too crazy. I know that Randy Orton used to be the legend killer. I called him the friend killer at one point, but geez, let's take a step back from committing crimes. But after Randy Orton won, Edge was laying back there, and apparently during this match, I think he tore his bicep, I think it was, but he definitely had an injury, and you can kind of see the doctors tending to Edge after a while. But as Edge was laying there, Randy Orton laid down and started talking to Edge, and he told him to go home to your wife and your daughters and tell them that Uncle Randy said hi. I hope that when Edge gets treated for his injury, that they definitely treat him for those burns that Randy Orton gave him. Like, damn, Randy, like, you just defeated the man. The man just had to recover of the fact that he hadn't wrestled for 9 years. He probably had a lot of pressure on himself. If he could put on, a good match, especially since WWE is piping up that this is the greatest wrestling match ever. And you're gonna, burn the man while he's laying there in defeat. But, respect to Randy Orton for all this. Afterwards on Raw, Christian comes out. Of course, he's upset because he's, with his friend and everything. And Randy Orton decided to challenge Christian to a sanctioned match, which ended up really not happening, which you kind of figured was going to happen because it was like, maybe less than 5 minutes left to Raw when they decided to do this match. Of course, it leads to Ric Flair giving Christian the low blow. And something that has come back now is the punt by Randy Orton, which I'm pretty shocked by because I thought this move was banned by WWE, especially the fact that, you're dealing with head injuries and concussions and everything, that you had Randy Orton, come back with his punt finisher. If it can be done safely, I'm all for it. It is a devastating looking move. So I'm just surprised that they had used it. But when it comes to this pay-per-view with Backlash, overall, it was a good pay-per-view. Hardy and Sheamus should have definitely not been on the card. It's a match that they definitely could have saved for SmackDown. Replace it with AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan match, of course, for the Intercontinental Championship. The Raw men's tag team match should have definitely happened. It shouldn't have ended, with this whole, they're stuck in a dumpster with a dumpster monster, so the match can't happen. No, just take off 10 minutes off of this long main event that you had for us. But overall, Backlash was a pretty good match. We'll see what happens with Extreme Rules. They changed the logo. It's very Hardy-esque, I have to say. It reminds me of the Hardy's logo with the lime green and the purple and everything. Of course, it seems like we're going to get Nia Jax versus Asuka again. We're probably going to get either Christian and Randy Orton or Edge and Randy Orton. We might get Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre, maybe. And probably something with Kevin Owens and Angel Garza as well. And hopefully the Street Profits and the Viking Raiders can have a match as well. Maybe Hell in a Cell or something like, well, not Hell in a Cell, but, something that will make this tag team division kind of be taken a little more seriously, as well. Let's see. But going off of things that happened, Samoa Joe was on commentary during Backlash, and Samoa Joe on commentary is so good, I have to say. They even had Kevin Owens on commentary during the pre-show with Apollo Crews and Andrade too, and he was also good on commentary as well. Randy Orton and Tommaso Ciampa was going back and forth with tweets. Of course, during NXT TakeOver in Your House, Randy Orton had tweeted out that TakeOver was great, that it was a leg slapper, and he said, no, seriously, I slapped my leg. And then Tommaso Ciampa, after this Randy Orton match, said that his daughter couldn't sleep and he found a remedy to it. He showed her some Randy Orton matches and it worked like a charm. Which, this particular match, you really shouldn't use that example on, I have to say. And then Cash Wheeler, of course, formerly of the Revival, said, if this puts your kid to sleep, your kid is dumb. So, shots coming off of AEW's side, technically. But of course, we know that the Revival was cool with Randy Orton anyway, so, you should have expected that. I don't think Tommaso Ciampa responded to Cash Wheeler yet. We'll see what happens. I did check out The Undertaker's last ride. This was covering his match at Extreme Rules and his match with Goldberg as well. And they were showing bloopers of his vignettes from back in the day. Now, Undertaker used to do these vignettes when he was in the cemetery and everything. And going back to when he was in Gray, of him building caskets and things like that. And so they showed the bloopers of those vignettes. And it was kind of weird to see him, because this is really the first time we get to see The Undertaker out of character for about, 30 years? Pretty much. The Undertaker has, pretty much stayed in character. You don't know who he is behind The Undertaker. I mean, I was shocked when I heard The Undertaker's actual voice. Normally his voice is deep and menacing and everything, but now we got this this Texas country bumpkin voice coming out of him, and it's still kind of weird to it's still kind of weird to take. Now, he did talk about the StarCast event. If you don't know what happened, The Undertaker was invited to StarCast. It was an event that was going on, I believe, at this time in Las Vegas, and it ran the same weekend as AEW. And The Undertaker, of course, because he was pretty much done with wrestling, he decided to do a lot of endorsements, and he decided to do some signings. So, he decided to do a signing at this event, and people started to buzz because this is running along with AEW. Now, Undertaker had no idea that this was an event that was pretty much associated with AEW until Vince talked to him, and Undertaker was like, well, everyone knows I'm a WWE person. I wanted to do the signing to finally interact with fans and everything, and he didn't see a problem with it. And then pretty much it was Vince McMahon who kind of had to really talk Undertaker out of not doing this event. So it kind of coincides with what a lot of people was thinking, that Undertaker had no idea that this event was going to be associated with AEW. Business-wise, you don't want the face of your company to kind of be put in a compromising situation where someone will be sitting there, trying to, how there's the quote unquote journalists out there who, or, the person who's trying to be famous on social media, who's going to try to get The Undertaker to either, hold up a shirt or do some type of sign or something like that, or taking a picture with a fan that has an AEW shirt, and for people oh, The Undertaker's going to AEW or something like that. Or even for AEW to have the chance to do something that will put The Undertaker in a compromising situation. So it technically was a good call to pull him out of that event. It just sucks because, it's about, we haven't really got chances to really interact with The Undertaker like you do with a lot of other wrestlers. Undertaker is one of those people who don't really do a lot of signings, who don't really go out and, interact with the fans like that. So the fact that he is slowly going into retirement is, he's finally taking the chance of interacting with the fans. Of course, The Undertaker was technically done with after Extreme Rules. And I was at Extreme Rules to see him at that match. So they showed him backstage. He was like, I'm done. My body isn't there. I mean, he was just like, he was done after Extreme Rules. So Vince McMahon, at first he didn't really take Undertaker seriously, but you can kind of see how the conversation has been going over all these years with Undertaker, being kind of like being done. Like, my body can't do it anymore. And he's trying to leave off of a high note, But before Extreme Rules, we had his match with Goldberg. He admitted that, something went wrong. He almost his life was almost taken when Goldberg was trying to go for that, ugly, nasty behind jackhammer that he couldn't even get the Undertaker up for. Now, granted, of course, yes, Goldberg was concussed, but he was concussed because he decided to headbutt a, very, very thick door. It's not like the door is made out of a thin piece of wood. He decided to headbutt the door, and of course, he concussed himself off of that. Undertaker also admitted that maybe he should have left WWE with Shawn Michaels. The fan in me kind of don't agree with, because we would never got the match that we got at WrestleMania 36, but we also wouldn't have got the matches between him and Triple H. I mean, those 4 years with between Shawn Michaels and Triple H, that was such good storyline. Such a good storyline at that time. And yes, Undertaker body was starting to decline with those two Triple H matches. But there was this segment where Undertaker was at a Raw and he was hilarious. I think it was when they were in Austin, Texas. And Undertaker he's wearing a green shirt during the segment. And he's backstage talking in the hallway. And he starts making a joke and he says, "Oh, not you, Seth." And then he says, look at all these people who are over, these young guys. And Triple H was like, well, don't do an interview in the hallway and people won't walk into your shot. But yeah, The Undertaker was hilarious. Now, the episode ends, he is walking around, I think it was the Raw, that it was a Raw event or something like that. Or it may have been Extreme Rules. I'm not 100% sure. But you see him walking along with AJ Styles, and then he says, "Let me talk to you a second." And then he turns to the cameras and says, cut the cameras off. And so we know what happens. He is talking to AJ Styles about doing a WrestleMania match with him. So the finale of this series is coming this Sunday. And I think what's going to happen is, and if it is, I'm going to cry, that he is going to announce that WrestleMania 36 match was his last match and that he is done and retired. And the fan in me don't want him to stop, but I respect the fact that he wants to leave on a high note. And eventually, his career has to end. As much as it pains for me, to be following him for all these years. He's the reason why I got into wrestling. He's the reason why I had stayed with wrestling. And so for his career to come to an end, it's kind of like heartbreaking because it's the end of a big chapter for me as a wrestling fan. But I respect it. I respect him wanting to, go to having a normal life of being a dad and a husband, and just being straight up Mark. But I would love to meet him one day. I was very tempted to pay to go see him when he was at StarCast. Luckily I didn't. But if he's doing like any type of signing or something like that, especially if it's next year's WrestleMania, because I have the thought to go to that WrestleMania because it's all the way in LA and never been to LA. But I definitely would love to meet him one day and to like really thank him for everything he has done. Guy literally saved my life. But I would love to meet him one day. And I'm sure I'm not the only person who feels that way. The Undertaker is a favorite for a lot of people. I mean, his career has expanded for more than 30 years. It'll be 30 years, I believe, once at a Survivor Series. So maybe the last episode is him talking about his last match will be at Survivor Series or something like that. Who knows? But I did a couple of polls with the fans during Backlash. Not that popular, but I did get some response back. About 50% of the votes believe that Asuka's match was bad. Strowman's match, 71% said meh. The Street Profits segment, it was split between good and bad. And I think overall people were saying that Backlash was good. And I had asked about if the match with the Viking Raiders was considered the greatest match of all time. So thoughts on Backlash, 42% of the votes said it was great. Was the Randy Orton Edge match the greatest wrestling match of all time? 62% of the votes said no. And yeah, it was split with the Viking Raiders segment between great and bad. So it depends on how you take it. It was people who found, like I said, the segment entertaining. I'm not going to knock people down for that. It's your opinion. I'm not going to kill people if people thought it was the greatest thing ever. But just my opinion is just that I wouldn't have minded the backstage segment as much if they had an actual match and it was a good match after that. But the fact that no match even happened, it just made me upset. Let's see. Now, a little bit of stories that is going on. Apparently, Mustafa Ali has been moved to Raw. So I don't know what, it is predicted that he is the person behind the hacker gimmick. So I don't know if this hacker gimmick is going to turn out like the anonymous Raw GM, where it kind of just went south because they really didn't know what to do with it. But I'm hoping that, Mustafa Ali did mention on social media that he's very unhappy, of course, how he's being used. He hasn't been on TV this whole time, which is the reason why a lot of people feel as though that he may be the hacker. And we also got the news that there is a developmental performer who tested positive for COVID-19. They didn't really say who it was, of course, because they can't. But apparently it is a developmental performer who is not on TV. So hopefully, everyone continues to stay safe. We'll see what happens next week with Raw, SmackDown, NXT, AEW. We do have Fyter Fest coming up in about 2 weeks for AEW. And it's taking place over 2 weeks, which is a bit smart. Gives them something to kind of fill in with as far as AEW Dynamite until the crowds are able to come back. I'm hoping that they eventually come back to Philly again, because I was thinking about getting tickets for that AEW Dynamite back in April. Let's see. And that is, I thought I had something else to talk about, but I guess not. So that's it for the WrestleBrett podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to check me out on Twitter. Follow me at Jaydee Talks. That's Jayde Talks. Follow the podcast at WrestleBrett as well. Shout outs to Clark Street Wrestling. Shout out to the Wrestling Court, Keita and Jay Show. And I feel like I'm missing others, but please forgive my mind, because I normally write down for all my shout outs every week, but I don't have it right now. Be sure to catch me next week. Fridays feel pretty good as far as release dates, but I think I'm going to try to do it earlier. Obviously I can't do it earlier since it's coming out on Friday right now, so I can't really turn around on Monday and release an episode. So maybe I'll release, I'm going to try to release them a lot sooner, but with my schedule and everything, Fridays feel pretty good right now. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on Backlash. Let me know your thoughts on what's going on as far as the Undertaker last ride and with Randy Orton and the tag team division and everything like that. And so until next time, guys, peace.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. Check us out at WrestleBread.com and subscribe to WrestleBread on YouTube for more breaking news and JD's opinions.